Welcome to Turn the Page podcast with Alyssa and Leah, a podcast where we share our love of children's literature and help you create page turners.
On today's episode, we will talk about our favorite Halloween books. Since spooky season has officially begun, we are so excited to share some of our favorites with you.
All right. I was so excited about this episode.
I know you are.
This is probably one of the first episodes that when we were coming up with a list, I was like, Leah, we need to talk about our favorite seasonal books.
Yeah, it is exciting. Like the beginning of school, we have, I guess, like you could do like a back to school or like a fall, but this is the first like holiday kind of.
Absolutely. When you think in terms of like a school year as the year, this is the first big holiday. I talked about this on an earlier episode. I'm always so excited to go get like my box of books out of my attic.
Right.
And you know where I'm going with this? This year I went to go get my box of books out of my attic. And as soon as I opened the box, I was hit with a pungent odor. And my husband had cleaned up Halloween last year, so kudos to him. But he had thought my little Trader Joe's pumpkins were fake pumpkins.
I can't imagine.
So they had been creating their own experiment in my attic. So all of my Halloween books, or most of our Halloween books that were not board books, were destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to get some new Halloween books.
Well, that's exciting.
So it was quite exciting. Immediately when my husband saw, he was like, order whatever books you need to for Halloween. It's like, well, good. This is an exciting opportunity to get some new ones.
Yeah. I know you were excited to take that down, though. Sorry.
It's okay, because I got some new ones. I replaced some of my favorites, which are ones I'm going to talk about today. And I feel like if they're worth buying a second time, they're definitely books you truly love.
Right.
So why don't you go first?
All right, I'll go first. So I'm going to talk about some books that I read in my classroom. And because I know that not every student does celebrate Halloween, I tend to like shy away from like Halloween-ish. I think I might have a couple that are like a witch and Frankenstein, but we celebrate Pumpkin Day on Halloween on the 31st. So a lot of mine have to do with pumpkins, but just so you know, it's not exactly like all of them are like Halloween, but it's around the same thing. And I think you can definitely read them for Halloween. Okay, so my first one is called Franken Crayon.
I've never read this, but I've seen it.
It's really sweet. It's funny. So it's one of the books where the characters are talking to the reader. And on the first pages, it's like, this picture book is canceled. Don't read it. Don't turn the page. And then you turn the page and they're like, oh no, they're turning the page. And so all of the characters are talking to each other and they're talking to the reader. What's happened is the crayons were putting on a Frankenstein play and they had to cancel the play because there was a scribble on the page. And the scribble gets out of control because all of the crayons try to make it go away, but they're crayons. So it's one scribble and then it becomes a bigger scribble and a bigger scribble. And it just kind of gets out of hand, like Frankenstein. So they're doing a Frankenstein play, but also the scribble is like Frankenstein. And they don't know who scribbled, but you're kind of hearing along the lines like, the pencil is the director, and he's like, yeah, I told the mad scientist that we were dropping him from the play because he was a little too scary. So then it goes on and says why we canceled it. And then the scribble actually comes alive because they draw a mouth on it.
Oh.
And then it's like, I'm trying to get somewhere. And then they draw legs so that it can walk away, and it finally walks away. And then in the end, the crayons do like tell a lesson that they learned. I mean, they're not real lessons. They go with the play, but it's kind of silly. And then you find out that the mad scientist is the one who scribbled because he was cut from the play in the end. And it's like, so it's kind of like the Frankenstein, story, but it's with crayons, and it's really cute and funny, and the kids like just love it. they think it's hilarious.
Had a lot of like onomatopoeias as you were flipping through.
Oh yeah.
So I always think that's like so fun to read.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Especially because it's like talking to us.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah.
Yeah, it's a commentary to you. I love that. Bring
Yeah.
in the fourth wall. All right. My first one is Bone Soup.
Okay, I do not know this.
So when I used to teach third grade, we used to read the story Stone Soup,
Right.
which is,
Yeah.
I guess, like a folk tale
Yeah.
where, you know, there's a soup, a stone soup, and then all the villagers add an ingredient to the stone soup.
Mm-hmm.
This is the same story, except for it's a Halloween version and it's with the witches and they have their cauldron and they're making a bone soup and they have all of the Halloween creatures add to their bone soup.
Yeah.
So, and they're all very funny in terms of voices. So, like, there's Naggy Witch and Craggy Witch are the main characters. Naggy Witch, Craggy Witch, and then there's one more, Scraggy Witch. And so I always like to do voices for them. And then they always say like piff poof after each thing. And so I just find it to be funny. But there's things that are added like eyeballs and I forgot. There's a ton of things that the characters add. But each time they add like a crackly lizard's tail and they had a little sound effect each one. And so they eventually at the end make just like stone soup, a bone soup that all the monsters enjoy.
Yeah.
And so it's cute. And they have at the end of it a recipe for bone soup that's like a true recipe that's like it's got ingredients that then look like the thing. So like the wrinkled fingers are carrots or parsnip.
Oh,
The lizard's tail is celery, and it makes like a chicken soup.
that's fun.
So it's a precious one, and it's got cute illustrations, and I think it's precious, and it's written by an Alyssa.
Aw.
So.
And so if you've read Stone Soup, read Bone Soup.
Absolutely, if you like stone soup,
Yeah.
you will love this.
Yeah.
It's really cute Halloween twist. I always like a Halloween twist.
Yeah,
on
I
a
like
book.
that too. Okay, so my next one is The Legend of Spookly the Square Pumpkin.
I love this book.
You know this one.
Yes.
I think that this is very popular with teachers. I read it, I think probably in college, like learning how to be a teacher is where I found this book.
Yeah, it's also a TV show now.
Really?
I don't know what it's on, but yeah, there is a Spookly TV show that I have seen before. I don't know if it comes out just around Halloween, but yeah, it came out in 2004.
It's a movie or a series?
It's a series because there's different episodes. It looks like it might be on Netflix.
Oh,
So.
I will have to look for that. I like that. So Spookly is a square pumpkin, and he's in the pumpkin patch with all the round pumpkins. They make fun of him. One night there's a storm, and there's a tear in the fence, so all the pumpkins go rolling out and are lost. But then Spookly, like when he is pushed to the fence, he stops it and so saves the rest of the pumpkins. And so the next day when the farmer comes around, he figures out that Spookly has saved his pumpkin patch. And then he takes Spookly seeds and plants them for the next year. And so the next year they have all different kinds of pumpkins. They have square pumpkins, they have rectangle pumpkins, flat pumpkins, they have polka dot pumpkins and bright colored pumpkins. And so there's a cute message that even though you're different, you have a purpose, and everyone loves this new like weird pumpkin patch the following year. And so there's a lot of activities that you can do with this in the classroom, like make your own pumpkin, like decorate it different shapes, sizes, colors, things like that. So it's fun to read. Kids like it.
I actually have not thought about this one in a while, but yeah, it's definitely a cute Halloween.
Yeah, since we do pumpkins, then I like to read the square pumpkin.
All right, my next one is a chapter book.
Oh, I can't wait.
And it is Goosebumps. I specifically have right now Night of the Living Dummy, which I did reread. I just read this book. And
was it scary?
I mean, I think Yes. Okay. Was I like shocked and surprised like I would be if I was reading a horror novel? Like I think our book club's going to be this month. No.
Yeah.
But it is about a dummy that they find at they find one dummy in an abandoned house. And then they find the other dummy at a pawn shop, and that one comes to life, and it's about twins. I remembered reading this when I started reading it. I was like, "Oh, I remember this story from being a kid." It's about twins, and they're kind of like jealous of each other, and then the dummy starts doing things that are mean to the twins. And it is scary. I mean, at the end too, there is also a cliffhanger, which is then scary, and there's a second book that goes along with this one. So I mean, I I think it is scary, but I think that this is a great book for reluctant readers or kids that maybe need like a hook to get them into reading. In fact, when we talked about this month, we have a book reading challenge at our school. And I was just kind of showcasing some of my Halloween books. Immediately, one of the little boys was like, "Can I please borrow that book?" And he borrowed it on Friday and he finished it this weekend and he returned it. It's Tuesday right now when we're recording.
Yeah.
He already returned it to me and asked me, "Do you have another Goosebumps book that I could read?"
Yeah, that's fast. I would not even read it that fast. So he's in 3rd grade.
He's in 3rd grade, yes. And I would say this book, I would say probably 3rd grade and up. I don't know the reading level of it, but I mean, it's a little creepy. I don't think my kindergartner this would be appropriate. Definitely not like kinder 1st grade. Maybe some 2nd graders, but
No.
I even think for some 3rd graders, this might not be appropriate.
Okay.
But it's not gory, except for the dummy. But it is definitely a book that, they have dolls in their room and they're all of that. It might be a little bit creepy. So this says grade level range 3 through 7, recommended age 8 through 12. And I would agree with that. I think that's perfect age for this. But it was a good read. It reminded me of my old Goosebumps days. I used to read a lot of Goosebumps as a kid.
Yeah, I definitely think kids get into this. I don't know that I ever read Goosebumps, but I watched the movie and I know about
Less
it.
scary than the show, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was, it's been around for a while.
There's like a new Goosebumps series that just came out more recently called House of Shivers. And I haven't read that one. I will say that one, the cover is frightening. So those are same Goosebumps kind of style of story, but it's updated. They're new books. They're not the same books that we've ever had. We've always had.
Cool and neat. I do think that it would be cool for boys if, to read around this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Someone that just needs a kind of a hook to get them interested.
Right. Speaking of hooks, The Little Old Lady Who Is Not Afraid of Anything. Have you read this?
No.
Oh my goodness. I love this. Okay, so there's a little lady who's not afraid of anything. She goes out for a walk and on her way home, she hears some shoes that are following her. You do know it.
Yeah, I don't know this, but Miss Burtis used to read this in the library and I would just hear the claw, claw.
Yeah.
Wiggle.
Yes. Yeah, so these shoes start following her, and then so she's kind of like, "Oh, what's that?" But she says, "Get out of my way, I'm not afraid of you." And then she keeps walking, and then there's a pair of pants that start following her, and they go wiggle, wiggle. And so she tells it, "I'm not afraid of you," and she keeps walking. And so there's different things that follow her: a shirt, gloves, and a hat, and they all have different sounds. And then a pumpkin head that's like a jack-o'-lantern carved in it, and it goes boo boo. And so it follows her home, and she's walking faster and faster. She gets home, closes the door, and then she hears a knock, and she's like, should I open it? She's not sure, but she's not afraid of anything, so she does open the door, and she says, "I'm not afraid of you. What do you want?" And they say, "Well, we want to scare you. Now what do we do if you're not afraid of anything?" And she has an idea, and she puts it outside in her garden, and it's a scarecrow.
Ah, cute.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Yeah, so our librarian used to read this, and I used to have an office attached to hers. And I just remember you repeat the same phrases over and over again.
Yes.
So I can remember, like, she'd be like, 2 shoes go clop, clop,
Yeah.
2 pants go wiggle, wiggle. And like, you hear that over and over again.
Yeah.
And so she'd be like, are you sick of this book yet? But the kids loved it.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like to read this for Halloween.
Very cute. I like that it's a scarecrow. That's precious.
Yeah.
All right. My next one, it is a great Halloween book, but it's also really timely because it is great for Hispanic Heritage Month. And it's a new book, is Gustavo the Shy Ghost.
I'm excited.
And this book is beautiful. I love the illustrations in it. But basically, Gustavo is a paranormal ghost. He lives in Mexico and he liked doing normal things, but he had trouble making friends. And so he's so shy that he like blends into all the things that they're doing rather than making friends with them. You just see him in the background of the pictures of all the people. But one thing he loved more than anything into the world is to play his music, play his violin.
Mm-hmm.
So one day he decides he's not going to be shy anymore because he is in love with a girl named Alma and he's going to like put himself out there to make friends. So he invites all his friends to a concert. And so he gets there in the concert and you turn the page and it's completely empty. And you're just like, oh my God. No one comes at first. And so then he just decides to play his violin anyway. And it says like Gustavo glowed because he was so happy to play his violin. Well, then you see all the friends do come and they were late because they had gotten lost, but then they heard the sound of his music and they followed his voice. And so then they became his friend and they knew him and he was never had to be a shy ghost again. But it's precious because number one, it has beautiful, like, kind of images in it. And then you can really tell it's, like, a Hispanic-inspired book. They have, like, papel picado. They have a altar for, like, Dia de los Muertos, you see. And then also, it's really cool because we talked about in my class, like, what makes you glow and what makes you shine. And my kids and I actually made instruments to play along with Gustavo. So I kind of used it as a hook for my STEM project. So some of my kids made like little violins out of cups. And I think our STEAM teacher did that too. Had them make little violins out of cups. And then some of my kids made like pan flutes, things like that. And we talked about music and how it's a big part of Hispanic culture.
Yeah. Nice. I like that. I'm sure our kids love that.
It's a very cute one.
All right. My next book is Room on the Broom.
I'm so glad you chose this. This is my 6th choice.
This is a fun book. This was actually like a Scholastic book bundle a few years ago. So I bought like, I guess a couple of bundles and I gave this to my students one year because it's like, it came like super cheap in 10 books for like $5 or something. So, so I have a lot of these, but Room on the Broom, there's a witch and she's flying, her hat flies off. So she has to go down to the ground to get it. And she picks up a dog. She goes up in the air, they're flying. The dog had asked her, do you have room on the broom for me? And so then she
drops her bow.
Her bow flies off, so she has to go down to the ground and get it. She picks up a cat. Then she drops her wand. She has to go down to the ground. And each time she picks up another animal. Well, they're all flying and having fun. The frog jumps off and it snaps. So she tumbles down and into a dragon. So then the dragon is like, all of them fall off of the broom too. So everyone's kind of like scattered. And the dragon's like, oh, I love to eat witches with French fries. And so he's about to eat the witch. And then he sees like this monster come and he gets scared. He's like, oh, never mind. I won't eat this witch today because the monster is like coming after him. And it's all of her friends that she picked up on the broom. They're like covered in mud and they're all like stacked up on each other and they scare the dragon away. So then they don't have a broom anymore, but she takes her cauldron and she said tells everyone get something and put it in the cauldron, and she does a little spell, and then they end up having like this mega broom with like seats, and everyone's like has their own seat on the broom, and they're just flying and they take off, and it's like a magnificent broom. And so it's really cute and funny. um
Yeah,
Halloween read.
it's precious. I love when you get to the page where they turn into the monster, it describes, so there's a picture of the monster and you can see the friends in it, but it also describes the monster, and I like to like not show the page.
Yeah.
I just describe it and see like if they can guess what the monster might be, because like it had 4 heads. It had feathers and fur and it had wings. I'm trying to find the page where, oh, okay. Yeah, so it says it had 4 frightful heads. It had wings like a bird, and its terrible voice, when it started to speak, it was a yowl and a growl and a croak and a shriek.
Yeah.
So it's like you can kind of
rhyming too. Yes, I wanted to say that. It rhymes. So
yes, one of my kids actually noticed that it rhymed. One of my kindergartners today, she was like, "Oh, a rhyming book. Why do all books rhyme?" And I was like, "Well, not all books rhyme, but this is a rhymer."
yeah.
That's a great book. I love that book. All right. So my next book is Pumpkin Jack. And this book, it is narrative nonfiction, which I think is an interesting category of books as a teacher, but I don't know a ton of them. But so it is a book about a jack-o'-lantern that a boy carves and he puts out in his bedroom, and it, is a normal jack-o'-lantern at first. But then eventually he has to put it outside because it was beginning to rot. And you see the pumpkin go through the life cycle. And as it rots, and you see it go through the different seasons, and then eventually you'll see seeds and then a sprout.
Yeah, I need this for pumpkin.
And the leaves, you can borrow it, absolutely. And talks about the pumpkin flowers and how it blossomed, and he gets a whole pumpkin patch in his yard. And then you see it all the way full circle till the next year when he has pumpkins. And then that year he gives away his pumpkins, all but one, which she turns into a jack-o'-lantern. And so it kind of comes full circle. And I think it's a great book to like teach the pumpkin life cycle.
Yeah.
But then it's also nice that it's like a story, and it's very relevant this time of year, obviously.
Yeah. I love this, especially since we do Pumpkin Day. I'm really, really into like pumpkins decomposing and then growing more pumpkins.
Didn't y'all do that last year?
I tried for like 3 years. The thing is like you need to. My next book talks about this. I just want to put the pumpkins in and like let it do its thing and not touch it. But we don't have that. Like I have to water them, and I have to like weed it, and I have to, take care of it. I have to actually
do something. I thought it was doing pretty good for a while.
Yes, for a while we had we did get like a little vine, and we did get blossoms, but then we went to summer and they all died. I think because like we didn't have a lot of rain one time, or one time we had too much rain.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the end, too, he says, "Welcome back, Jack."
Oh,
the last line in the book. And so I think it's just a sweet story about a scientific concept. And I think it's a good, if you don't have Halloween celebrators, you could still obviously talk about this book because it's not like a witch or a ghost.
Right.
It's still very like respectful of, obviously, even children that don't celebrate Halloween, they know Halloween is happening.
Yeah.
But it's not about Halloween, it's just about the pumpkins.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of why we do like the Pumpkin Day and just investigate pumpkins, because it's still a celebration. So my next book kind of goes along with what is it? Pumpkin Jack. So this is called Too Many Pumpkins, and I love this book. I love to read it, and like I get emotional sometimes when I'm reading it. I just love it so much. Okay, so Rebecca Estelle is an old lady who has hated pumpkins. When she was younger, all she had to eat was pumpkins. And so she hates pumpkins. She doesn't want to see pumpkins. And one day in her front yard, a truck dropped some pumpkins and they splattered. And so she's upset because these pumpkins are all over her yard and she hates pumpkins. So she just decides that she's just going to leave them. And this is where it's from Rebecca Estelle. I just want to leave the pumpkins to decompose. And so she left them in the yard. She doesn't even look at them. She closes the blinds and she uses the other door. So she never goes in her yard, this part of the yard, to look at them. She has another garden that she tends to. And then one day she notices that there's some vines growing and she's like, I didn't plant any of this. So she rips them up and like tries to get rid of them, but it doesn't get rid of them until all of a sudden one day she goes out in her front yard and it is like full of pumpkins. And when I say full of pumpkins, these pages have like hundreds of pumpkins on them. Okay, so like she has too many pumpkins and she's like, what am I going to do with all of these pumpkins? So she starts to like harvest them. She brings them inside. She cooks with them, even though she doesn't want to eat it, but she doesn't know what to do with it. So then she has all this stuff, pumpkin bread, pumpkin pies, like just, and it names everything, but there's pumpkin seeds everywhere. There's pumpkin food everywhere, and she doesn't know what to do with it. And so then she has an idea to carve the pumpkins that are in the yard still because she has leftover pumpkins, and she lights them.
Oh.
And they're all over her yard, like a lot of pumpkins. And then she kind of like just waits. And then she sees lights coming up the road, and people saw her pumpkins from far away and are like, what's happening at Rebecca Estelle's house? She has like all these lights on. So they come and she feeds them all of her pumpkin treats and they have a great party. And she is actually very thankful that she has all of these pumpkins because now her house is full and she has all these people around her. And so she finally gets rid of the last pumpkin stuff. She gives everyone a jack-o'-lantern too as they leave. So everyone takes the pumpkins. And then you find out at the end, she kept a handful of seeds for the next year. Yeah. So I really want to be Rebecca Estelle, and after Pumpkin Day, I want to put our pumpkins in the garden, and I want to let them go. But I do like to do it because we do watch them rot, and we do talk about them like rotting and stuff. So I just need to be more mindful about actually taking care of the pumpkins
during the summer.
Yeah.
You have a schedule, watering schedule.
I know. But it's a lot of fun. I love this book, and Halloween is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is a good time.
Do you have more books? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess you started first.
You have another one.
I have one more, but I really have two more because I'm really going to have to talk about one.
I have 10 more.
Okay. I have like other names because we said we were just going to like say some titles, but I have two more that I really want to talk about. Okay. Because this one is a new one to me. Okay. So I saw this. I was looking for a book to read with our whole school because we always read in October with our whole school about a book about the love of reading, or we did last year. But then we decided to go in a different direction with our meeting, and so we read What If Everyone Did That? But I had already found this book, and then it was serendipitous because I went to Walmart and it was on sale in an aisle that I just happened to walk by, and I was like, you know what, I need to get it. So this book is called Boo, the Library Ghost. So Boo is a ghost that terrorizes the library, and he scares the children. He knocks down the shelves. He rips pages out of books, and he likes to scare the kids and make them run away from the library. Until one day, he meets a girl named Poppy, and Poppy is in the library reading her book, as children in the library might do. And Poppy doesn't want Boo to bother her because she's trying to concentrate and read her chapter. So no matter what Boo does, she just continues to read her book because she's so enthralled. And so then Poppy is like, oh no, readers would never do that unless, and you see Boo blush. And you realize that Boo can't read yet. And I love how it's written because it's obviously written intentionally with like a growth mindset in mind. Because it says like Boo couldn't read yet and Poppy knew just what to do.
Yeah.
So Poppy tries to get Boo to come with her, and at first he's like growling still and he's not that nice, but eventually She gets him to read all kinds of stories. She reads to him, and then she teaches him how to read. And you can see as the book goes on, Boo is getting happier, and then Boo becomes calmer and more tame. And then he gets a great idea, and he decides to clean up the library.
Oh,
And he makes it beautiful. And so when Poppy comes back, he's so excited to show her what he's done. And it says he showed pride. I think, yeah, he was beaming with pride at what he's done with the space.
yeah.
And then after that, he helps the kids find recommendations for what to read. He helps them sound out words. And then at the end, it says, haunting the library is what Boo used to love most, but now he's a reader and the best library ghost.
Oh, I love it.
So I think it's a great like reminder of growth mindset, and how sometimes when things are hard, how that might look for people. And then also it's just, precious.
Yeah.
And Boo's really cute.
Yeah.
And, especially I think younger kids, so I read this to my kindergartners today. And some of them are reading and some of them don't know how to read yet. And so we're constantly talking about it's okay if you don't know how to read yet. You'll get there and it takes time to learn to read.
Yeah.
But we're not going to get frustrated about it because we're going to get help.
Oh.
So yeah, this was my bonus one. But the original one I was going to bring is Where's My Mummy? And it's about a little boy mummy who is lost beside the graveyard. And he hears all these scary sounds of other creatures. And so he keeps asking, like, Mama, Mummy, is that you? But it's other, like, monsters. But they're very fun to do the voices for. This, like, a lava monster. It's like glug, glug, glip, glug, glug, glop. Glug, glue, and he's a big, nasty monster. But anyway, at the end, he gets back with his mom. And, the mummy was scared. Of all the things, but his mama takes care of him. And I love to read this to the girls. And at the end, he makes the little sleeping noise from back with his mama, mummy.
That is cute. That's a cute book.
So I had it as a board book, but this time when I bought it, I bought a real book. Because
that was one that was...
This was one of my destroy, or maybe it was a paperback because I got it from Scholastic.
Okay. Yeah.
I got I think it might have been the same year you got yours. I got like a bunch of books when, I guess 6 years ago now, when Carmel was like a baby at Halloween, because I wanted to have like a theme to library for every holiday.
Yeah.
So I had a bunch of books that I got from Scholastic. And
that's really sweet. Yeah.
So, all right. Other Halloween titles.
Okay, so my other Halloween titles are Halloween books that that go with a series of children's books. Okay, so these are some that I had in my library. Click Clack Boo. So a lot of people know there's a book called Click Clack Moo, and it's about, this farm and these animals on the farm. There's also a Curious George Halloween book. There's also a Clifford Halloween book, Fancy Nancy Halloween book. So these are things that your kids might be familiar with because they've already seen these books. These are like their favorite characters. We've talked about The Bad Seed. There's a one called The Bad Seed, The Good, the Bad, and the Spooky. So like even newer series, How to Catch a Witch. If your kid has read any of the How to Catch a
How to Catch a Monster. I also brought I have Goodnight Goon.
Oh,
Goodnight Moon Halloween. And Carmel loves Llama Llama Red Pajama. There's a Llama Llama Halloween book.
Yeah. So if there is a series or a favorite character that your child likes, there may be a Halloween or whatever holiday, but we're talking about Halloween book that goes with it. And even like chapter books, like the Puppy Place books, there's a Halloween one. The Bad Guys, that's a chapter book. There's a Halloween one. And Pokemon, there's a Halloween one. So this might like get kids interested if they recognize those characters.
Absolutely. And it's always fun if you love a series to see the characters in a new novel. You know,
right.
when you are familiar with a character, you love to like go back and revisit with that
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely fun for kids to see some of their favorites in Halloween. There's also a book that I wanted to mention called How Many Seeds in a Pumpkin. I used to read this
Yes, I do read that.
when I was in the
Yeah.
classroom, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like a math book about counting pumpkin seeds, but it's also informative about like which pumpkins have the most seeds because
Mhm.
it's kind of a surprising answer for kids, but it goes over different ways to count,
Mhm.
like counting by ones, counting by twos, fives. And I think that's a great book to like incorporate some maybe math if you are going to carve a pumpkin at home. Um, it's a great way to incorporate that at home.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots to read this holiday season.
Yeah, and I think that that's one way to hook your readers, right? Like having books that you bring out for Halloween
Yeah.
makes that, oh my gosh, all these new books. Sometimes
Mhm.
when you always have books around, which is great to always have books around,
Yeah.
they get stale in those books because they feel like they can read them anytime. Whereas these
Mhm.
are like, it's just like
Special.
a sale. It's like
Yeah.
a limited time
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. Special. Yeah.
So, Leah, what is making you turn the page right now?
All right. So it's the time of year right now for me to start switching out some books in my library in my classroom. At the end of the first 9 weeks, we've had these books since the beginning of school. So I like to kind of switch it up a little bit. So I will be adding some new books and introducing some new books. And so that's exciting, I think, for my students. And it just reminds me, gotta add some new things, switch it up sometimes to keep reading.
Absolutely. Got to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
So I am reading The Anthropocene Reviewed, which was a recommendation from Katie,
Yes.
and I'm just about done. And it has been such a good read. I love John Green. It is interesting to me reading this because it's somewhat, I guess it's a memoir, but it's each chapter is its own thing, as she kind of talked about, that it's like got short stories about different things,
Mhm.
but he's very humble, especially someone that I consider to have like truly made it.
Mhm.
And it's cool because it gives you some insight into, he writes a lot about sick kids. Well, he was a chaplain at a children's hospital. So he like kind of references that. He also wrote it during COVID-19. So it's so interesting to hear he talks about that's what
Oh,
he's writing.
wow. I didn't realize it was that recent. Okay.
Yeah. So he's like talking about COVID and how he hopes to make it like that. You see the end of it. Like it talks about plagues and things like that. And how he like, I guess, is can't wait to be around people again and the
Mhm.
isolation you feel in COVID. So it's
Yep.
interesting now that we are on the other side of that
Yeah.
to hear about someone's thoughts while they're going through it.
Yeah.
So it's been a really good read. And we've talked about that, having that community of readers, people that
Mhm.
can recommend books to you.
Yeah. I need to start. Did you tell Katie you were reading it?
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
I did. And
Yeah.
so I also have been like toggling back and forth between the written version and the audiobook. So
Oh.
that's been something that's kind of new to me. And I really have enjoyed doing that because sometimes I do just prefer to read.
What are you reading it on? Do you have the book or?
I'm reading it on Libby. So I have the audiobook on Libby and the Kindle book on Libby.
Okay.
So I can kind of do both. Now it doesn't hold your place. You have to kind of know where you are in the book, obviously, because they're not connected. But it's been nice to do both.
Yeah. Interesting. Good.
It's been a good read.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening to Turn the Page podcast with Alyssa and Leah. We hope you enjoyed our spooky reads. Please take a minute to follow us and leave us a review. We would love to hear from you.
And speaking of hearing from you, we would love for you to follow us on social media. You can find us on Instagram at turnthepage_podcast or Turn the Page Podcast on Facebook. We do want to mention our What You're Reading Wednesday. Head over to our Facebook or Instagram to tell us and help about what you're reading and help us add to our to be read.
All right. Bye, y'all.